I wanted to create a space where it's all about mothers. We really grow to believe that a woman can and should do it all. All of that really F's you up. You're like, who am I? What am I doing? What's going on? And this is when I just had a complete meltdown. You gotta do self-care. You gotta take care of yourself. What the heck does that mean? Nobody tells you. The only thing that I didn't learn about is what is going to happen with me. I didn't realize that my life will never be the same. The idea behind this podcast is all about that, and it's all about you. Welcome to It Mom, a podcast where it is all about you. And I'm your host, Paulina Perry. And today I'm doing my very first solo episode where I want to share the idea behind It Mom and why I decided to start this podcast. So let's start from the beginning and rewind back to the time when I didn't have a family and I wasn't a mom yet. And back then, I really wanted to have a family. I've always wanted to have kids ever since I was a child myself. And I had this idea about how all of this is going to look like. And basically, if I was to paint a picture or ask ChatGPT to make a picture, I would ask it to picture this woman standing next to the stove, with a phone pressed to her cheeks, with a baby on her hip, and she's stirring some kind of food, and she's doing it all. And she's all put together and looking great. And honestly, I envisioned myself to be that kind of mom, the cool mom, the super mom, the sexy mom, all of those things. And little did I know that it's not really going to play out that way when I have kids. And I don't know if a lot of women can relate to that, but in our modern society, we really grow to believe that a woman can and should do it all. And I think that makes it so much more difficult when you step into motherhood. And this journey becomes a lot more challenging because you're trying to do it all and at the same time, and you're just not happy if it doesn't go your way. So let me share my story and how motherhood played out for me and why I decided to start sharing about it and started a podcast. So when I was pregnant with my daughter, Sophie, I learned everything there is to know on the internet about pregnancy, about giving birth, about being a parent. I'm a Virgo, I'm super organized, I wanted to be super prepared, so I really dove into research. I watched a trillion of YouTube videos, I read every book out there on how to be a good parent, good mom, how to go through this whole process. I remember watching real videos of birth to kind of learn what to expect and what's going to happen to me. And I felt prepared. I thought that I know everything there is to know. I kind of prepared myself for the best case scenario, which I certainly had and written down. And I also prepared myself for the worst case scenario that I thought could have happened so that, I'm mentally prepared. And when I went into labor, obviously it didn't turn out the way I planned. It was close, so I was lucky, but it never does. We always write this birth plan and, you think that things are going to unfold a certain way, but sometimes it's a train wreck, and that's fine too. So it was a bit of a train wreck for me. But in the end, everyone was happy, everyone was healthy. I had my baby girl. It was great. The only thing that I didn't learn about is what is going to happen with me. And in that moment, not just one moment, moments and moments leading, up to this moment, after I gave birth, I really didn't know what to do with me. I knew what to do with my baby, even though I was still learning. You can never be fully prepared. But I didn't know what to do with me and what would happen to me. So I was so unkind to myself in these first weeks after giving birth. I remember I went out on Friday with my girlfriends, and then on Sunday I went into labor. On Monday morning I had my daughter, and then I checked out of the hospital a few hours after I gave birth, and I basically went out for brunch the next day. I remember I couldn't even walk. I was trying to get to the restaurant because I just gave birth. My body was wrecked and I was so unkind because I couldn't wait to get back to my old self. Like, I really wanted to go back to that old Paulina that went out and was social and was, having all of these things. And I didn't give myself any time to heal. And I literally made it so much worse for myself in those first weeks postpartum. And I remember really trying to bounce back. I wanted to, get back into my clothes, and I wanted to get back into my social life. And I kind of felt that my life is going to be the same. I'm just going to have a child. I didn't realize that my life will never be the same. And more importantly, that I will never be the same. Because I thought, okay, well, maybe, I need to give myself 6 weeks for my body to recover so I feel better. And then I thought, well, 6 weeks has passed and I haven't really felt better. Or I didn't feel bad, I just felt very different. And then I gave myself 6 months. And then it took me almost a year to start feeling a little bit like myself, because what nobody talks about is that when you have a baby, you're kind of in a bubble. You're, first of all, attached to this little human being that you have to take care of 24/7. You are absolutely confused because the hormonal changes, the whole birth experience, all of that really F's you up. I mean, not in a bad way because it's a natural process, but it does. You're confused. You're like, who am I? What am I doing? What's going on? There's so much that comes with that experience. And I think that's why a lot of times when you become a mom, you start self-identify with your child. You kind of merge with this new role because it's such a big role. I don't think anything in life can compare to that experience, because suddenly you're just adjacent to this other human being, literally for months, because if you're breastfeeding, you have to be there. And that's what happened to me. And I really didn't know how to handle it. I didn't do physiotherapy, so I wasn't very kind on my body at all, because I did a lot of sports before. I was very active, and then as soon as I gave birth, I was, squatting, and I don't know, a few days after, trying to get back into shape. I'm like, wow, but I'm this cool, I'm this strong mother, oh God. So I didn't give myself any time to heal. So my body was crying for rest, and then my mind was just, because I did not let myself feel all the feelings that came, the baby blues and all the emotions and all the hormones. So I tried to suppress it, and I tried to be it's okay, you can do this, you're a super mom. And what I realized is that it didn't serve me at all. And if anything, it made me a worse mother, because I wasn't entirely present for my child, because I was not in touch with myself, with my own body, with my own emotions. I just didn't even know who I am anymore. So the turning point for me was when I went for a 6-month vaccination appointment for my daughter, and I saw this nurse, and she was this wonderful, wise woman in her late 60s, early 70s. And I thought, okay, well, she's been through life, she knows. And I remember she asked me, so how are you doing? And I immediately went into talking about my kid. I was like, we're gaining weight, we're sleeping well, we're eating well, breastfeeding is going fine, everything is great. And I didn't even realize that she could have been asking about me, because when you have a child, you kind of attach yourself to them, and you become we, and you start automatically talking about your kid and not really about you, because you don't expect people to ask about you. So she looked at me, and then she said, okay, well, this is great, but how about you? How do you feel? And this is when I just had a complete meltdown, because prior to that, every time somebody asked me, how are you, I would jump into talking about the child, about, all of the good things. And I haven't truly shared how I felt, except for, with my husband in those dark moments of sadness and baby blues. But this was the first time a stranger really got a glimpse of what's happening with me. And I was a mess. So I'm just like crying, Sophie's crying. It's just like a whole scene. And she, like, God bless that woman, she sat there, she held space for me, and she just looked at me. I couldn't even say anything because I didn't know how to express. I didn't know what I felt. I just felt overwhelmed. I was like, what is this new life? How am I going to cope with it? So I remember she turned to me and she said, have you been away from your baby? And I was like, well, yeah, I go for manicures and pedicures and I do stuff. I go for a few hours and, I have a very supportive partner. I'm blessed with that. And she said, no, but have you been like away, like far away? And I said, no, like I'm breastfeeding. I can't go far away. What do you mean? And she said, well, can you go away, like, hours away? Can you fly somewhere? And I'm like, no. Like, how am I going to leave my child? I'm a super mom. So I was like, no chance. And then I remembered that week, the universal ways are mysterious, but that week, my very good friend was flying to Mexico to celebrate her birthday. But of course I said no, because I just had a child and obviously I wasn't leaving her to go and party with my girlfriends in Mexico, Tulum. Like, that would be outrageous, right? And my appointment was on Monday and they were leaving for Mexico on Friday. So in that moment when she told me, do you have an opportunity to go travel somewhere far, to be away from your baby for a few days, I remembered about it. And I was like, well, actually, yes. My girlfriends are going to Mexico this Friday, which was absolutely a wild fantasy. Like, come on. And she said, well, this is perfect. You should go. Like, I've never met this woman, but I'm telling you, she changed my life. Because that day, I went home, I called my husband, and I was like, I just met this nurse. I had a complete breakdown in front of her. She told me that I should fly away. I have this perfect opportunity. My girlfriends are going on Friday. Can I come with them? And God bless my husband. He said yes. He's like, sure, you gotta go. But I mean, mind you, he saw me behind the scenes. The sobbing, the sad, the emotional, the hormonal Paulina that wasn't herself and wasn't giving her best self to the child or the family for that matter. So he was like, go anywhere you need to go, just like come back normal. My poor husband. Yeah, we should do an episode of what men experience through this whole transition, because I think they also deserve credit. To hold space for women in this process is hard. I need to do this. I need to start inviting some men too. Anyhow, so I book last minute tickets. I just go. I go with my girlfriends to freaking Mexico. I leave my daughter, my 6-month-old daughter, for, it was like 3 or 4 nights with my husband. And he hasn't done much because I've been breastfeeding. He's been very, very supportive in terms of like spending time with the baby and bathing her. But in those first weeks, you think that you know it all and your husband knows nothing. So you're like, you don't know how to do this. Let me do this. And then eventually your man stops trying. And then in a year or so, you're like, oh, my husband never helps. He's not doing anything because you never let them. Like, that's how I felt. I didn't really let him to do much at the beginning, especially with the first child, because it was like, well, I know everything. I learned everything. I researched. I'm the Virgo. I'm the super mom. I'll do it. And then that was such a great opportunity for him as well, because I remember I was boarding on the plane and he sent me this text message, and he had towel on the counter and he had bottle and then bottle warmer, and like he had everything prepared, because obviously I wanted to continue my breastfeeding journey, and I prepared. So he had to like thaw the breast milk and like all of that, and I had to tell him how to do it so that our daughter could continue benefiting from breast milk while I was away. And I had to bring a pump, which was a whole another fun story. Me on the beach, pumping. But yeah, it was pretty special because he just mobilized and prepared for this very scary experience as a guy with a tiny little baby without me anywhere in sight. Like, I couldn't come. Like, I was far. I was like 4 or 5 hours away. And I gotta give him credit. What an incredible man. Like, to do this, it takes some guts. Like, he really impressed me. Because not only he made sure she survived, but he also developed this really close connection with her. And to this day, she is his little everything. I mean, we know about, father-daughter relationships and all of that, but like, I think that experience made him so much more closer to her because there was no one else. He was the primary caregiver for her in that moment. He experienced what I experienced every day. He also had greater appreciation for what I was going through this whole time. And it really strengthened our relationship as partners, but also their relationship. So as much as I knew that that's gonna awaken all this guilt and pressure from other people's opinions, how can you leave your child? And I'm Eastern European. I don't even go on Eastern European forums to read anything because Eastern European mothers will eat you alive because it's in our culture. North Americans are a little more like, oh yeah, that's your choice, but they will still judge you. Mothers are cruel. So I was like, ooh, I'm leaving. I can't tell anybody about this, but I'm gonna go. And I thought I'm gonna be absolutely wrecked by this experience because I thought, well, I'm just gonna be missing her. I'm not gonna be able to have fun. But I knew I needed it. So I went and I had an amazing time. It was great. I fully reset. And it's not about like partying or getting a few nights of sleep. I wasn't even partying that much. I just wanted to go to bed early and then wake up at a decent hour and actually get some decent amount of sleep, which I haven't had for 6 months. It was incredible. And then just spending time with my girlfriends and not talking about diapers and not talking about baby stuff and just being a woman. It was so therapeutic and amazing. And I just hit a reset button. I came back home and I was a new person. And I realized from that moment on that in order for me to be a good parent to my kids, I have to take care of me. And I know there is a lot out there about, oh, you gotta do self-care. You gotta take care of yourself. What the heck does that mean? Nobody tells you. They're just like, oh, like, what? Do you do a mask? Do you get your nails done? That's not it. And a lot of times, moms don't share fully what that experience is like for them and what they do to cope with certain things. So I guess the idea behind this podcast came from a desire to support women in this transition and in this journey and help other women share their stories so that we know that we're not alone in this. So even after that trip, it took me a while to understand and to learn how to find my center again. And I think I'm still going through that process. I think I'll be going through that process for years to come. My kids are still young. I have 2 kids. My daughter is 4 and my son is 2, just over 2. And they're very young, and I'm still in the process of recovering. Another thing that nobody tells you is that recovery is not just physical recovery. There is a lot of recovery that you have to go through that relates to hormonal changes in your body, that relates to mental health. I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder after having my daughter because I am naturally a very anxious person, but after having a child, that just intensifies. People don't tell you that if you are an anxious type, and a lot of women are, let's face it, that you can have these like bizarre visions of what could happen to your child. Like sometimes I'm like, am I crazy? Is something wrong? And then I started talking to other women and they'd be like, oh, no, I see that too. And I've never seen this on the internet. I only could get that information from other women. So I think it's very important to have a community. But a lot of times we lack that because we now live in big cities, we're far away from our relatives, from our moms. Like, we don't have a huge community to lean on, to ask questions, to get wisdom from. So a lot of times we go to the internet, but internet is kind of censored. Often you go to on Instagram, and what do you see? You see a picture-perfect family, clean kids, beige nurseries, everything is perfect. And you think, well, that's how I'm supposed to be when I have kids. And if you're not like that, you're worried. And so was I. And I really wanted to find a way to communicate that and maybe create a community that could be accessed online, because I had my daughter during COVID. And despite motherhood being the best and most incredible experience in my life, it was also like the loneliest and the most isolating experience in my life. Not only because it was during COVID, which was really hard, and whoever had babies during COVID would totally relate, I'm sure, but also because I was so far away from my family, because not a lot of my girlfriends had kids at a time, because I didn't have access to community with a lot of mothers where we could exchange that information, and because the women I met on playgrounds or play dates, I didn't know well enough for them to share their struggles. Everything was great and nice and fantastic. And I came home and I'm like, is it just me? Am I a wreck and everybody else is living this blissful life? But what I learned with time is that everybody goes through it. It's a huge transition. And I guess this whole podcast is here to highlight that transition and the struggles that we go through as mothers, and the ways and tools and tips that helped us find our center, and for many women find their purpose too. I think we will discuss that in upcoming episodes, how motherhood can really shift you towards what brings you sense of meaning and purpose. I'm very fascinated by that topic. And I also want to talk about the name, because I don't want you to think that it's IT mom. No. It's It Mom, and I know that it could be associated with, it bag, it girl, but to be honest, it's more about it being about you. I wanted to create a space where it's all about mothers, all about the women behind that huge consuming role, and what they go through and how they can help each other get to where they want to be, and how they can embrace that evolution and be the best mothers that they can be while still being women, while still being driven, ambitious, social, whatever that may be that makes them happy. So the idea behind this podcast is all about that, and it's all about you. So with that, I want to finish my first episode. I think it was a great introduction into what my message is and what I'm trying to put out there. But most importantly, I want to hear from other women. So in the upcoming episodes, I'm very excited to introduce some incredible women that I've met that will be sharing their stories. These women come from all walks of life, and I'm sure you'll be able to relate to their stories as much as I was relating to their stories when they were sharing them. So tune in for more episodes. I'm very excited for what's to come, and you can also follow us on It Mom Club on Instagram, It Mom Club on YouTube, or visit our website, itmomclub.com, for more information and background about me and the idea behind this podcast.